Greetings, everybody. Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. So we're going to take a last look at a couple of concept albums, and I've chosen two from very different bands. One going back to the early 70s, 1973 in fact, and then one a little bit later. So the first one we're going to check out is an album which was a bit of a parody of a concept album. This band's previous album called Aqualung, which was not a concept album, according to Ian Anderson, the lead singer of Jethro Tull. Of course, that's who we're talking about. Was seen as by the music press and what have you as being a concept album. There were a few things about religion in the album, etc. And it kind of peed off old Ian Anderson. So I thought, right, next album I'm going to give you the concept album of all concept albums. Pretty much one track which runs right throughout the album, side 1 and 2 of the original vinyl. And as I said, it's intended as a parody of the concept album idea. It's basically a musical adaptation of a poem written by an 8-year-old genius called Gerald Bostock. Obviously, this is written by Ian Anderson, so the ghostwriter, if you like. And it's a great piece of music. It's not a listen that you can just sort of jump into quickly and leave. You've got to listen to it from the beginning right through to the end. Some amazing musicianship in the album, as usual, with Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull. Regardless of who was in the band, they were always top-class musos. So speaking of which, you had Ian Anderson on vocals, guitar, flute, on mandolin. I think he also plays a bit of sax and a bit of trumpet and what have you. Martin Barr on guitar, of course. I think he also played the lute on this album. John Evans, piano, organ, and harpsichord. Now, harpsichord is not something that you often find in bands' music, but he played pretty well on this album. Then there was a guy called Jeffrey Hammond, or Jeffrey Hammond. I don't know why they added the extra Hammond there, on bass guitar. He wasn't really a bass guitarist. He first started out as a guitarist, I think, so he pretty much had to learn from scratch. And for me, the best drummer that Jethro Tull ever had, Barrymore Barlow on drums and percussion. So that's the lineup. And I used to have, excuse me, I just want to have some coffee. Many, many years ago, I used to have the vinyl, which came out like this newspaper. Very cleverly done. I mean, it was a marketing piece of genius, really. And I don't know what happened to my vinyl. It has been reissued with the original newspaper, the whole lot. But what I have got is this is the, what anniversary edition is this? This, if I can read the small writing, is a 25th anniversary edition, digitally remastered and featuring previously unreleased live material from Madison Square Gardens and an interview with the members of Jethro Tull, which is quite interesting to listen to. So let me show you the whole 9 yards here. That's the box. That's the original cover of the album. It's supposed to be like a newspaper, very clever. And there's a whole bunch of made-up stories at the back. So this is the album itself, the CD. There's the tracks. So Thick as a Brick, which is 22 minutes and 45 seconds long. And then it carries on, Thick as a Brick, 21 minutes and 5. So that's the two tracks, side 1 and side 2 of the original vinyl. Then you get Thick as a Brick, live at Madison Square Gardens, 1978, which is really cool, really nice recording. That's one thing about Jethro Tull and Ian Anderson. When they do re-releases or reissues or deluxe editions, it's always top class. And then there's an interview with Ian Anderson, Martin Barr, and Jeffrey Hammond as well, which is quite interesting, like I said. That's the CD there. There's anything to show you inside. There's a couple of newspaper clippings and what have you from the album. There's some amazing guitar work on here. The drumming, the title track, well, the only track really, Thick as a Brick, starts off with a really nice piece of acoustic work from Ian Anderson. And this album became a staple in their live concerts. If you listen to 1978's Live Bursting Out album, which is for me one of the best live albums ever, they do a great version of Thick as a Brick on there. So that's the first one, Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull. Oh, let me just show you. This is the... so what they did is they replicated the original newspaper, which is quite cool. So there we go. How's that? Back in the day when album covers and everything was the in thing. So there's the all sorts of weird stories inside, all made up obviously. There we go, it's quite cool. And yeah, interesting stuff. So I was quite chuffed to get this anniversary edition. But I think one day I would like to get hold of the vinyl again, which, as I say, has also been re-released. So there we go, Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick. The second album we're going to check out came out many years later. In fact, this came out in 77. That one was 73. Alan Parsons' project, I, Robot. That cover there. So this is basically an album inspired by the author Isaac Asimov's science fiction book, Robot Stories. And I think science fiction and robots were quite big in the 70s. It was like the fashionable thing. And this album came out, I think, just before or just after Star Wars, the first Star Wars. So that kind of, sort of piggybacked on the back of that. And it's all about artificial intelligence and what have you. So that's the front cover there with the robots. There's the back, there's just the songs over there. Let's see if there's anything else I can show you inside here. There's Alan Parsons himself, and of course Alan Parsons came to prominence. He was one of the guys engineering or helping produce Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. That was his claim to fame. So it says here, I, Robot, the story of the rise of the machine and the decline of man, which paradoxically coincided with his discovery of the wheel, and a warning that his brief dominance on this planet will probably end because man tried to create a robot in his own image. And if you think about all the AI business going on at the moment, everybody talking about AI this and AI that, that's quite relevant to this album. So this was in 1976, produced by Alan Parsons, executive producer Eric Wolfson. Now, Eric Wolfson was the other half, or the other main guy in the Alan Parsons project. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he passed away a few years back. It is an orchestra and choir arranged and conducted by Andrew Powell, engineered by Alan Parsons. I was trying to see who else plays in here. Bass, David Payton. Drums and percussion, Stuart Tosh. Electric guitars, Ian Barnson. Acoustic guitars, Ian Barnson, David Patton, Alan Parsons. Keyboards, Eric Wolfson. He was the main keyboardist. Duncan McKay, who was born in the UK but came back to South Africa and released quite a few albums. He appeared on many albums as well. Alan Parsons, steel guitar, BJ Cole. And then there's a whole lot of different people doing vocals. Alan Clark, Steve Harley. I think that's Steve Harley from Cockney Rebel. Jack Harris, Peter Straker and Jackie Whitron. Dave Townsend and Lenny Zakatek. And then there's a whole bunch of additional vocals, backing vocals. And yeah, so that's just there's the lyrics over there. And the first track was almost, I think it was a fairly big hit in the discos because it's got quite a danceable feel to it. The first track is actually I, Robot. Then the second one, I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You. That's the danceable one. Some Other Time, Breakdown, and Don't Let It Show, which has got some incredible vocals. I don't know what you would class this as. Progressive pop, I suppose. I mean, there are prog elements to it, but it's not heavy prog. It's quite radio friendly, as I told you, with that danceable track. So Don't Let It Show was a really cool track, very mellow. Some nice melody to that track. Then side 2, you've got The Voice, Nucleus, Day After Day, Total Eclipse, and Genesis chapter 1, verse 32. So that's the complete album. I'm not sure if this has been given the deluxe treatment. Probably more than likely has. And but this would go on to be one of the big sellers for Alan Parsons projects. I think this one and the album called Pyramid. That was the other one. And I was glad I got hold of this. I got hold of this at one of the vinyl fairs. It's in pretty good nick, second hand, but hey, it's most of the vinyl fair stuff that I get you can check out first, and this one looks pretty good. There we go, guys. The last two of the concept albums. I'm not too sure what I'm going to go into next, but hey, we shall see. And yeah, please, down below, give me any comments if you remember these two albums, Thick as a Brick or iRobot. Any comments? And yeah, thumbs up would be great, and subscribe if you haven't. It's a hot day here in Cape Town today, 31 degrees. So I'm not going to be doing too much, just taking it easy, and the pets are just going to be lying around sleeping, which is not a bad idea. Take it easy, guys, and I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.